What do you see? A smile. Confidence. The all-American man. He was a law student, a political volunteer, the kind of man who would stop to help you if your car broke down. But behind this mask was a void, a black-hearted predator who stalked, tortured, and murdered his way across America, leaving a trail of devastation that baffled police in 7 states. This isn't just a story about a killer. It's the story of the perfect camouflage, the story of how a monster walked among us, using charm as his weapon, and how he was finally unmasked by the only thing he couldn't hide, the mark of his own teeth. To understand the monster, you have to understand the man, or at least the man he pretended to be. Theodore Robert Bundy was born November 24th, 1946, in Burlington, Vermont, but his life began with a lie. He was born at a home for unwed mothers to Eleanor Louise Cowell, to hide the shame of his illegitimacy. Ted was raised to believe his mother was his sister, and his grandparents were his parents. He was a quiet, private boy, a scout, a good student. But even then, there were dark currents. He was fascinated by knives. Later, he would admit to peering into neighbors' windows late at night, a voyeur hidden in the shadows. As he grew, he polished his mask. He attended the University of Washington, studied psychology. He even worked at a suicide prevention hotline. His co-worker and Rule, who would later write a definitive book about him, described him as kind, empathetic, and responsible. He got involved in politics, working for the Republican Party, seen as a bright, articulate, rising star. He was handsome. He was charismatic. He dated women. He began a relationship with Elizabeth Klopfer, a single mother in Seattle. To her, he was a loving partner, a father figure to her young daughter. He wanted, by all outward appearances, a normal life. But there was another side, a side he called the entity, a dark compulsion, fueled by rejection, particularly a college relationship that had left him shattered, and a deep-seated, boiling rage. In 1974, that force was unleashed, and the Pacific Northwest would never be the same. It began as a whisper, a series of missing posters. College campuses, usually so full of life, became hunting grounds. February 1st, 1974. Linda and Healy, a 21-year-old student, vanished from her basement apartment. The bed was made. Her alarm was set. She was just gone. Then another and another. One by one, bright, beautiful young women were disappearing. All had similar features. Long dark hair, parted in the middle. Police were baffled. There were no signs of struggle, no ransom notes. It was as if they were being plucked from the earth. The terror reached its peak on a sun-drenched day, July 14th, 1974, at Lake Sammamish State Park. Thousands of people were there, and so was the killer. Witnesses, several women, reported a handsome young man. He had his arm in a sling. He called himself Ted. He asked for help loading a sailboat onto his car, a tan Volkswagen Beetle. 23-year-old Janice Ott, trusting and kind, agreed to help. She was never seen again. Just 4 hours later, in the same park, he did it again. 19-year-old Denise Naslin went to the restroom and vanished. The ruse was his weapon, a cast of sling crutches. He preyed on compassion. He would feign injury, lure his victim to his car, and then, with a crowbar hidden inside, the mask would drop. He would knock them unconscious, bind them, and drive them to a pre-selected, remote location. There, the true horror would unfold. He would rape them, strangle them, and end their lives. But for Bundy, the horror didn't end with death. He would return. He would revisit his victims' bodies. He performed acts of necrophilia, grooming the decomposing corpses. He decapitated at least 12 of his victims, taking their heads back to his apartment as grotesque trophies. He was, in his own words, the most cold-hearted son of a bitch you'll ever meet. As the body count in Washington rose to at least 8, the police net was tightening. They had the sketch. They had the name Ted. They had the car description. And Ted Bundy knew it. So, in the fall of 1974, he vanished from Seattle and reappeared in Salt Lake City, Utah, as a law student at the University of Utah. He didn't stop killing. He just changed locations. Melissa Smith, the daughter of the local police chief, Laura Am, Debbie Kent, all vanished. The pattern was identical. Then, on November 8, 1974, Bundy's arrogance almost cost him. 18-year-old Carol Durant was at a shopping mall in Murray, Utah, when a man approached her. He had a badge. He said her car had been broken into and she needed to come with him to the station. He led her to his Beetle. She got in, but something was wrong. Carol said, "Why aren't we going to the police station? This isn't the way." Bundy said, "We're just making a quick stop at the office." He pulled into a school parking lot and parked in the dark. He told her to stay put. Then he turned. He snapped a handcuff onto her wrist. Carol Durant screamed, saying, "What are you doing?" He pulled a gun. She fought. He tried to swing a crowbar at her head in the cramped car. She fought with everything she had, managed to get the car door open, and tumbled out, running for her life, one handcuff still dangling from her wrist. She was the one who got away. Bundy, enraged, drove off. That same night, he kidnapped and murdered 17-year-old Debbie Kent. His hunting ground expanded. Colorado, he murdered 23-year-old Karen Campbell in Aspen. He was a traveling nightmare, but the clock was ticking. On August 16, 1975, a Utah state trooper pulled over a tan Beetle for driving erratically in the early morning hours. The driver was Ted Bundy. The officer searched the car. What he found was a serial killer's toolkit, a crowbar, an ice pick, rope, wire, and a pair of handcuffs. Bundy was arrested for evading police, but Carol Durant picked him out of a lineup. The handsome law student was finally linked to a crime. In 1976, Ted Bundy was tried for the kidnapping of Carol Durant, found guilty and sentenced to 1 to 15 years in prison. The nation breathed a sigh of relief. The handsome monster was behind bars, but they had no idea who they were dealing with. The case in Utah was just the beginning. Soon, authorities in Colorado charged him with the murder of Karen Campbell. He was extradited to Aspen to stand trial, acting as his own attorney, a move of pure, blinding narcissism. Bundy was given access to the courthouse law library. On June 7, 1977, during a recess, Bundy asked to use the library. The guards, used to the charming, non-threatening law student, left him alone. He saw his chance. He jumped 30 feet from a second-story window. He fled into the mountains. For 6 days, he was the most wanted man in America. He broke into a cabin, stole supplies, but the wilderness was too much. Exhausted and hungry, he was recaptured. You'd think security would be tighter. You'd be wrong. Back in his cell in Glenwood Springs, Colorado, Bundy started losing weight. Over 6 months, he dropped 30 pounds. He was also working, night after night, using a hacksaw blade he'd smuggled in. He carved a 1-foot square hole in the ceiling of his cell. On December 30th, 1977, he stacked books on his bed, covered them with a blanket to look like a sleeping body, and climbed through the hole. He crawled through the ceiling, dropped into a jailer's apartment, and walked right out the front door. By the time he was discovered, 17 hours later, Ted Bundy was on a plane to Chicago, then a bus to Florida. He arrived in Tallahassee with a new name and a burning rage. The entity was free, and it was starving. On the night of January 15, 1978, just 2 weeks after his escape, Bundy found the Chi Omega sorority house. The front door lock was broken. At 2:45 a.m., he slipped inside. What happened next was not a meticulous kidnapping. It was a 15-minute explosion of pure, unrestrained savagery. He went room by room. He bludgeoned 21-year-old Margaret Bowman with a piece of firewood. He strangled 20-year-old Lisa Levy, bit her, and sexually assaulted her with a bottle. He moved to another room, attacking Kathy Kleiner and Karen Chandler, beating them so severely their jaws were shattered. Nita Neary, another sister, came home late. She saw the front door ajar. She saw a man in a stocking cap, holding a club, walking down the stairs. Their eyes met for a second. He fled. Nita's testimony would be crucial. Bundy wasn't done. He left the sorority house, walked 8 blocks, and broke into another apartment, attacking student Cheryl Thomas. The state of Florida was in a panic, but Bundy was already hunting again. On February 9th, 12-year-old Kimberly Leach, a junior high school student, he abducted her from her school in broad daylight. She was his final and youngest victim. Her body was found 2 months later in a pigsty. The end came, not with a SWAT team, but with a simple traffic stop. February 15, 1978, Pensacola, Florida. Officer David Lee spotted a car, a stolen orange VW Beetle, weaving in a no-loitering zone. He pulled the driver over. The man was cooperative, until the officer saw the plates were stolen. "Step out of the car, son. Put your hands on the vehicle," said Officer Lee. Bundy kicked. He ran. He fought. But Officer Lee subdued him. In the car, they found credit cards belonging to the Chi Omega victims. When he was finally identified, the most wanted man in America, the charming Ted, looked at the officer and said, "I wish you had killed me." The trial for the Chi Omega murders was a media circus. It was the first to be televised nationally. And Ted Bundy, the failed law student, loved the camera. He fired his lawyers. He represented himself. He was smug, arrogant, and utterly captivating. He smiled. He flirted. He grandstand. But this wasn't a kidnapping trial in Utah. This was a capital murder case. And the evidence was overwhelming. Nita and Neary, the sorority sister who saw him leave, pointed him out in court. That is the man. But the prosecution had an ace up its sleeve. Something Bundy had left behind on the body of Lisa Levy. Something he could never talk his way out of. A deep, savage bite mark. The prosecutors called in Dr. Richard Souverain, a forensic odontologist. In a moment of pure courtroom drama, they put up a photo of the bite mark, and then an impression of Ted Bundy's uniquely crooked, chipped teeth. The mask was gone. The jury saw the animal. On July 24th, 1979, after less than 7 hours, the jury found Ted Bundy guilty on all counts. During the sentencing, Bundy continued his bizarre performance. He even proposed to a character witness, Carolyn Boone, in the middle of the trial. She accepted. They were legally married on the spot due to an obscure Florida law. But Judge Edward D. Cowart was not charmed. In what would become one of the most famous judicial speeches in history, he looked at the man he was about to sentence to death and said, "It is ordered that you be put to death by a current of electricity. It's a tragedy for this court to see such a total waste, I think, of humanity. You have made a good lawyer, and I would have loved to have you practice in front of me, but you went another way, partner." Bundy was sentenced to death. He would receive a third death sentence in 1980 for the murder of Kimberly Leach. He spent the next 9 years on death row, appealing, denying, and manipulating. But as his final execution date neared, the bravado crumbled. In a last-ditch effort to save himself, he began to confess. He talked to detectives. He talked to religious figures. He finally admitted to it all. He confessed to 30 murders. But investigators believe the true number is far, far higher. On January 24th, 1989, Theodore Robert Bundy was executed in an electric chair. Outside, hundreds celebrated. Justice, in its most final form, had been served. Ted Bundy is dead, but his shadow lingers. We are fascinated by him, not because he was a monster, but because he didn't look like a monster on the outside. He wasn't a goblin hiding in the shadows. He was a man in the suit, the helpful stranger, the friendly face. His case changed America. It shattered the illusion of a safe community. It taught us that the devil doesn't always come with horns and a pitchfork. Sometimes he comes with a winning smile, an arm in a sling, and a tan Volkswagen.